Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Amanda Tevis, and I'm the marketing lead for HCL Discover, which is a behavior analytics solution for HCL software. I just want to take a moment to welcome you all to today's webinar, Data-Driven Marketing, Harnessing the Power of Behavioral Analytics. And today, our speakers for the event are Tony Stankowski. It's our Discover subject matter expert, and we also have Drew Kurth, who's our North America go-to-market lead at HCL Software. Just to take a moment before we start, I like to just review the question and answer panel that you can submit questions at any time to today's presenter. So feel free to just send us any type of questions that you may have. And if we miss any, we will definitely follow up via email. And also, I sent a reminder earlier today, you can always hit reply if you have any questions to today's webinar. So now I would just like to kick the webinar off, and Drew's going to take it from there. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And so, yes, everyone, as she mentioned, my name is Drew Kurth, and I'm the go-to-market lead for HCL Discover and HCL Unica, our marketing automation platform. Thank you for spending some time with us. Times are busy, so we appreciate you carving out a half hour of your time to meet with us and talk to us and listen to a little bit about behavioral analytics and our approach and how HCL Discover can help you identify behavioral patterns and use them. What's interesting, or from my point of view, or a little bit about me, I spent many years in digital agencies. So I worked for about 17 or 18 years inside of Publicis Group digital agencies. And so I spent a long time working with marketers and marketing departments, trying to figure out how to do a better job of building better campaigns that are more personalized and more targeted with better segments over time, and worked in marketing departments as they're trying to drive the business forward. And so some of what you're seeing or what you hear from me today is talk a little bit about how behavioral analytics driven by our Discover software can drive those campaigns and improve them over time. So if you look on the left here, you see things that we've heard and that we've seen marketers want, or I'm sorry, need to pursue their business and their marketing goals. One of the biggest is campaign to revenue visibility. Every CMO in the world has to go to the CFO and ask for a marketing budget and make promises on marketing KPI achievements. And every CFO always wonders whether or not half their money is misspent or not, because it's very hard to tie revenue to marketing campaigns. And that's probably been a problem for, ever since there's been marketing and advertising. It's getting better with digital. It continues to get better. And I think today you'll see a couple of examples of how it could get better. One of them you'll hear Tony talk about today, which is this concept of the mid-funnel conversion. So with HCL Discover and our behavioral analytics tools, you collect a ton of data, what's happening in sessions on sites after people arrive. But there's a subset of those data points that we found that when addressed, changed, evaluated over time can have a direct impact on getting people from viewing and trying to actually buying. And we can use that data then to put that back into the next campaigns so that outbound campaigns have better segmentation and personalization reflecting that data, which will cause higher conversion, which those improved segments then are something the marketing team can actually go back and say, hey, before we were doing these changes or making these changes, taking in this data from the behavioral analytics on the site, our performance or conversions were X. After we started using these data points and making changes, our conversion was X plus. That's a critical thing for marketing to be able to go back, because you're going to have campaign metrics, open rates, click-through rates. Those things are critical and important. This will just add to that line item that says, hey, by doing things differently based on what we know happened on sites to improve conversion, you can attribute specifically some amount of growth in sales to those marketing campaign improvements. So those are needs that we're going to try to talk to you a little bit about today. And then wants, of course, if we're going to do that, it's got to be easy to use. I have marketing teams, they've got to be able to use this stuff. They've got to be able to get their hands on the data. They've got to have the actual data itself that can go into the segmentation and personalization engines itself. We also want to be able to use that data once we're using it for marketing for lots of other reasons, right? There's planning reasons beyond just the next campaign that we want to use. And then if we're going to do this, of course, IT and our info security teams are going to expect this to be in a secure cloud solution. We have all of those wants on the right, and I think you'll see some ways we think we have good solutions to address those needs on the left. So Tony's going to take you through all of this. I'm going to put my email address, my contact information in the chat. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And if you want to follow up later, just more directly, please don't hesitate. With that, Tony, I will let you get started on your piece.
Okay. So the first thing I want everyone to think about today is how many tools or solutions in the space that are exposing session replay and being able to replay your session. And session replay is something that used to be relatively difficult to do, that has gotten much simpler as technology has changed. And many people are looking at that, but almost think of it as like an iceberg, where session replay is that tip and all that data down below. And that's really what we're able to do and harness with the use of Discover. So we're looking at beyond the clicks. So people clicking and interacting with the page, hovering, screen sizes, the various change events that they're doing. We're looking beyond discrete interactions of just, from a marketing standpoint, the aspect of awareness and conversion, and looking at those patterns that kind of drive that behavior. The other thing that makes us very, very unique is the aspect of looking at what did not happen. So a prime example here from a campaign standpoint is how many people came to this campaign, it did not convert. Now I can identify that segment and start analyzing and looking at kind of what happened to them. The fourth thing is beyond lengthy issue discovery. So we are able to quickly investigate anomalies without the inclusion of IT support. So an aspect is, say someone says I had an issue, I can quickly search, I can find their individual web session, I can replay it and see what happened. I can change my search parameters and understand how many people also ran into that exact same issue and start quantifying it. And fourth is looking beyond disparate data sources. So we look at Discover as that single source of behavior data, and we are able to feed any other solutions in this space that you may have, whether it be an HCL solution or a non-HCL solution. And data export within our platform is not something that we charge for. It's included in the licensing. So what I also want to kind of jump into is, if you look at kind of this solution where we're capturing and being able to replay all customers, digital experiences on your website and extract kind of those behavioral insights, we're looking at it today through the lens of marketing. But what I also want to point out is there's so many more use cases here where we could have basically your digital and compliance team, where we can get into doing fraud detection, dispute resolution, real-time alerting, your customer service for replay, your design, your UX team for usability, your IT and operations, or even kind of that digital product channel, looking at their conversion rates. And if we look at Discover, we're charging you a volume license. So it's based on the amount of data that comes through here. We do not charge a seat license. We do not charge for additional modules. That means that you can simply license Discover. You can use it for marketing, but you have this potential to expand it throughout the organization to be that single pane of glass to bring everyone together. So really, what differentiates us from a lot of, the other solutions in the space, and really when we say post-capture behavior engine. So what we're doing, and think of Discover as a fire hose, where we're collecting kind of all of the customer's interactions, we're sending them into this in-memory database on the back end. We're then able to kind of start doing analytics on that data or extract behavior. What does this mean for an organization? Well, traditionally, you're going to be doing 100% JavaScript collection when you get into the space. We don't have to push additional tags or code and go through QA, dev, QA, and up through production releases. What we have to do is we include a single JavaScript file that captures everything, sends it in, and then that post-processing allows us to change or write events on the fly. And what you're going to see here today is what we've done where all of this kind of comes out of box within our solution. But because of where we sit in this space and our capabilities, we have the ability to support basically that digital channel, the marketing, customer support, IT DevOps, and export all of this data out, whether it is kind of a batch extraction to bring together online, offline reporting, whether it's kind of real time and feeding into another system. Think of that as like a real-time personalization system and driving kind of content displayed back to that customer, or feeding it back into a customer data platform or data lake that you have internally. So we're going to kind of start jumping into kind of the marketing use cases. And traditionally, when you look at marketing, you're running these campaigns. You're going to do kind of first touch or last touch attribution. And you're going to have all these reports around campaign conversion, total orders that came in versus those campaign orders, looking at percentages of what the campaign did, being able to kind of break down that the campaigns into the various campaign names, the sources, the mediums, the content. This is what you're going to get out of very traditional web analytics or any solution in the space. And by default, you're going to get that out of box within our solution where we use UTM standards. And here's an example of kind of that awareness of kind of exposing kind of the campaign names, the source, the medium, the content, and being able to kind of expose that and show that throughout the organization, or be able to show a conversion. And what that conversion can be, we traditionally tie it to a sale, but if you're looking at some other industries, it could be, basically signing up for a demo, pulling down very specific content or PDFs, etc. And that's the only area where we may have to customize our events slightly when we import this into an environment, but that is literally less than 5 minutes of work. So awareness and kind of that conversion are what everyone is looking at in that space. But really, it's kind of that mid-funnel that people are kind of blind or don't have that access into. And it's understanding kind of interest, consideration, and intent. And what we're going to do through Discover is we're going to show you how we kind of expose these things directly out of box. Now, the one thing that I do kind of really want to point out here is if you kind of look at kind of this entire mid-funnel, interest, consideration, and intent, we do expose those on an individual level, but we aggregate those together. And we kind of we create what we call an engagement score. And this engagement score is providing visibility into those campaigns, but then again, we can drill down into individual sessions and kind of look at interest, consideration, intent, all broken out. So we know exactly what that customer was interacting with, where they kind of struggled, how to re-engage them, how to push out new campaigns, and really make your campaigns much more effective. So here's an example of kind of some of the reporting that we have available within that mid-funnel, and this is getting around engagement. And we're exposing this engagement score by basically those your various campaigns, your sources, your mediums, etc., which is going to allow you to understand how I need to retarget, how I need to re-engage. But also what I want you to think about is, because this is an entire solution around that customer, what we're capturing, and think about just kind of a replay standpoint, where you're showing that replay of what happened. We have the ability to expose usability insights. And with those usability insights here on the right, we're showing the aspects of heat maps, the aspects of form analytics, the aspects of attention and where people are paying attention on the page, or getting into comparison analytics and exposing hovers to clicks, etc., and going much deeper, where we can sit here and show a campaign landing page and show how people are interacting with that campaign landing page. We can break that down by performance metrics. We can show screen resolution. And the other thing I want you to think about when it comes to Discover is designed for marketers to make this information actionable. So an example is, say I'm driving someone to a campaign and they're interacting with a portion of the screen, and that portion of the screen is not something that they should be interacting with. Maybe they're focused in the wrong area. I can highlight and bring out a section of this screen of where they're interacting with and drill into the actual sessions that actually made that up, where all of our reports drill down into that individual behaviors that wrap up to the aggregation. And here is an example of me kind of going through here where, say I wanted to know how many people interacted with this button. I could click on the sub-select, drag it out, and drill down in, but I'm able to filter these things. And here's an example of me being able to filter by that campaign source, so I can look at basically those people that came to this landing page directly from those LinkedIn ads, and I can compare that to people that are coming organically and see how they're interacting differently, or see where they're paying attention to content on the pages, where maybe I need to move my content up and push it up above the fold in order to get conversions. So as we sit here and we talk about kind of these browsing behaviors, I want you to think about like traditional web analytics, where I have to kind of tag that website and determine kind of the start of that campaign, where I'm pulling that query string, or the conversion. Well, what happened in between? What if I have to deploy this JavaScript and update my events, and now I have to come into basically a code deployment process where it's going through dev, through QA, through kind of a UAT, and up through production. As my website is constantly changing, how is that scalable? And this is where our solution is going to make the most sense, because you include a piece of JavaScript once where we can do network capture. And we collect all of that data and that post-processing, so we can easily expose these browser behaviors without much, I would say, administrative overhead on the back end. So literally, I want you to think about this, and this is also, when we talk about these browsing behaviors, it's every customer on your site, so or prospect. So if we sit here and we look at kind of all of this behavior, not necessarily we can do comparisons of campaigns to non-campaign traffic, but as we sit here and we look at interest, consideration, and intent, kind of that engagement score that we're making up, what are we doing? How are we doing this? And that's the question that we get quite often. So if I'm looking at interest, I'm looking at clicks, I'm looking at hovers to clicks, I'm looking at orientation changes within that page. I might be looking at resizing of that windows. I'm going to be looking at screen views or page views, and potentially, this is default out of box. We can enhance this for customers to bring in additional metrics, and we're weighting these. We have an individual score for interest. When we look at consideration, we're looking at scrolls. We're looking at people searching on your website. We're looking at product detail views. We're looking at gesture counts that happen on these pages. We're looking at people revisiting. Now, as we sit here and we jump forward and we start looking at intent, we're looking at, think about value changes. So I'm going to give an example. It may not resonate with everyone on this call, but I'm going to try to keep it simple. Think about if I'm looking at a particular shirt online, I might be looking at sizes. I might be looking at colors. Those would be aspects of intent. I might be opening multiple windows or multiple tabs and doing comparisons back and forth, and we're going to detect those multiple tabs. We're going to be looking at products added to the cart, and we're going to be looking at the initial steps in a checkout process of going through before that conversion actually occurs. And all of this behavior behavior we're collecting and we're aggregating up. We can do this on the individual session level. So here's an example of individual sessions where I have an interest score, I have a consideration score, I have an intent score, and from the aggregation, this is wrapped up and pushed into that engagement score right here. We can see if I just add these three together, this is how I'm coming up with that engagement score. And there's various weighting in here. We actually do have this deployed in a handful of customers today. And we were able to kind of sit here and work through those weights. But the thing that's most interesting here is, what does that data mean? And how do I take it into context? So I'm going to point out an example right here. If I look at this guy that my mouse is over, and I have an interest score of 40, and I have a consideration score of 93, and I have an intent score of 0.06, and you see I'm adding all three of these together to get to 139. But what happens where I have this low interest and a higher consideration? Well, I have to take it into context, and this is where kind of that segmentation, where being able to segment customers or prospects is really good. Where if I look at this from an organic traffic standpoint, someone who's naturally coming to my site and they have low interest and they have very high consideration, that tells me that my site is very well designed, that they're able to kind of go through, path through, and kind of work through that purchasing process and move to consideration very quickly on those products. If I look at that in context of a campaign, looking at it, a particular campaign, what does that mean? Well, I didn't really target them properly, because what I targeted them with, then they kind of shifted out, and they're doing a bunch of searches, they're doing a bunch of product detail pages. So from that standpoint, I'm not targeting them properly, and I don't understand my customer. So it's really these aspects. Sorry.
Yeah, not to interrupt you, but for me,
absolutely,
that piece for me is a critical component for what I can put back into marketing, right? Is what are we doing with those segments that we're not putting the right stuff in front of them to get them to click through, but they're clicking through. So we have a good message, it's just not a great message. And that kind of optimization can move the needles dramatically. It doesn't seem like it, but at scale, just having the right message in amongst what they are looking for more generally makes sense. If they're looking for shirts, but we're showing them long sleeve instead of short sleeve, it's like that simple, small change, seemingly unknowable in the past. Like we can know that now. We can see that we got close, but not close enough. And the next time we run that campaign, we can drive the personalization engine to be that much more fine-grained, which is actually going to have a big improvement on conversion rates. And being able to go back as the marketer to the team, to the business units, and say, look, we're using this data to create a fine-grained look at your personalization, and that's why we're doing this live in the actual campaigns, and driving more sales is a huge win. And so the more we can use this data for that, that's what gets exciting for the marketing team.
Yep. And the other point I want to make is this is just kind of the tip of the spear, where this is very kind of high level. We're addressing this from a high level. We'd love to work with kind of all of these resources on the phone, kind of deep dive into this, expose aspects. Think about this from a total picture where I'm keeping this very high level. If someone converts, I have basically IDs of where I kind of push them, whether that's Facebook, that's Google, that's Instagram. I can basically pull that ID out and use lookalikes or cohorts and start kind of pushing up. So we really have the ability to ramp up or accelerate your campaigns and increase conversion rates. We'd love to have those conversations with you on a much deeper personal level.
Yeah. 30 minutes is a top line. Hopefully people got some indication of how the data flows and how we could use it. And like you said, in this marketing context we're talking about today, which is just one small sliver of the kind of enterprise-wide use of these behavioral analytics that we can unlock.
And I do have a question out here from Jurgen today. And the question is, are we using AI for analyzing this sort of data? And currently we are not. So as we go through, what we're doing is we actually have created these behaviors that we're looking at interest, consideration, and intent. And we've kind of tested these out with a bunch of customers. And we've had to kind of tune or tweak our weighting or scoring for various industries. We are looking at going that direction longer term, where this is probably a next level kind of conversation. And it's really around data export within our solution and the capabilities of kind of building those AI models to plug them back in. Where when we look at AI, we're not trying to do it generalized for everyone. We're trying to go very specific on a per customer basis and model specific for that customer.
Yeah, and when this data is available to the marketing automation platform, Unica specifically as we sell it, but also the peers, I'm not sure there's a bunch of AI in there, but there's a bunch of machine learning, more so than just AI. And the machine's learning and tracking patterns and learning what to respond to in what channel for best result. And so this data being available to those machine learning engines in the marketing automation platform, or the campaign engine, if you can think of it that way, is of great help. I know Unica has it. I think our competitors do have some version of it as well, so it's not specific to us. But I think that's the closest thing you'll see to using this data in that methodology. Were there any other questions? Tony, I should have looked.
That's the only one that I'm seeing here.
Great. I don't see any others. So great, Tony, thank you so much. I know we're up on time, and I want to respect everyone's time. And thank everyone for making time for us. We're available. I put my contact information in the chat. I think you can reach us with any follow-up questions that you have. You can find more information on the HCL software site about us as well. But it's much easier to get to us by email, because then we can have direct conversations. So unless there are any other questions, Amanda, I don't know if you have anything else for us.
Everyone will get a recording of the webinar, attendees, and also people that didn't get to attend as well. So yes, thank you again for your time, and feel free to reach out to myself or Drew or Tony with any questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.